Are you done? Are you so fed up with your situation that you're willing to do anything to get to the end of yourself quickly? A good friend of mine used to say that all the time. If you want to experience change, hurry up and get to the end of yourself. You know, it was a cool saying, but the more I thought about it, it's like, how do you get to the end of yourself quicker? Last week, I had submitted a video about a catalyst moment that I had on the treadmill. A friend of mine had sent me a motivational video that really was a catalyst that inspired me, so much so to change where I lived. I ended up moving to Chongqing, China to produce YouTube videos, do voiceover work, teach, but most importantly, pursue my dreams of living in a different country, and in particular, living in China and having the time of my life. And what I want to do in this segment is expound upon that video. I mean, we're going to literally set up camp around the idea of filling your head with wisdom and knowledge. And my first question to you is, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice? How much are you willing to pay to get wisdom and knowledge? What's it worth to you to finally do something about your circumstances? And what I want to do is I want to talk about some people that were willing to pay an exorbitant amount of money to get in front of wisdom and knowledge. There's a guy by the name of Tony Robbins, and you've probably heard of him. He's a world-renowned motivational speaker, and he has literally changed the lives of millions of people. There are CFOs, CEOs, politicians, professional athletes, professional actors who are willing to pay this guy over $1 million for his coaching and mentoring services. Over $1 million. Imagine that, one guy commanding that much per person to motivate them. If you don't have $1 million, you can attend one of his seminars for as little as $600 all the way up to $5,000 for a 4-day event. Now, the other person I want to mention is Queen of Sheba. We're going to go back in biblical times. Queen of Sheba heard about Solomon, who at the time, Solomon was the wisest man that had ever lived and was living at that time. She was impressed enough by the reports that she actually put together a caravan of individuals and made about a 1,500-mile trek to sit at the feet of Solomon so she could soak in his wisdom and knowledge. Okay, so listen to this. She's a queen. So she's well known throughout the area. So she's got to have some type of security attachment. Who knows how many people that was. She's got to have support personnel like chefs and cooks and people that took care of the camels and the transportation. Not only that, she was carrying over 9,000 pounds of gold that she would use to offer to Solomon to be able to sit in front of him. The trip probably took about 3 to 5 months. Think about all the orchestrating that took place just so she could gain wisdom and knowledge. And once she finally arrived, she stayed there for 6 months, soaking it all in. As a side note, I would say that's the first documented case of a motivational seminar. So I ask you again, what are you willing to pay? What are you willing to sacrifice for wisdom and knowledge? And the first thing you're probably saying is, I don't have $1 million, Patrick, and I don't have 9,000 pounds of gold. We live in a time where there is instant access to a wealth of knowledge and information, and most of the content is free. But the times that we live in, the attitude, the toxicity that we experience on a day-to-day basis don't reflect individuals going to find that information so they can change themselves. Instead, we're probably the most toxic, negative society that's ever lived on this planet. And the reason is very simple, and probably most of you know it, is what we are exposing our minds to. I mean, all you have to do is go to Facebook and look at the Facebook feeds and see the division politically, see the division from a religious standpoint, see the division between families and friends, at least they call them friends, right? It's ridiculous. You go to the news. I mean, the news to me is not the news anymore. It's just more like a tabloid newspaper. And all it does is spread half-truths, false information, and lies. And we wonder why we feel the way that we do, and it's because we are letting this information into our minds. We are letting this information into our homes. And I want to give you kind of maybe an analogy in comparing what Facebook and the media is like. You know, it's that one person we called Nosy Rosie in the neighborhood. or maybe school or college or your dormitory, you've got that one person. It's like they're always getting into other people's business. And not only that, they're divisive. They start telling lies about other people. They ruin relationships. They ruin friendships. They just do a ton of damage. I could bet you right now, with me talking about this individual, you probably came up with a name very quickly that you can think of that you've had this experience with. And that thought, just that one thought of that person probably evoked a little bit of emotion from you. Maybe it was anger or bitterness, or that person was toxic. Okay, right now, I want you to stop what you're doing. You know, when we're listening to audio, whether it's audio books or video, we tend to multitask. But I want your attention because you just participated in my little experiment. Okay, so we're talking about Nosy Rosie, and I kind of led you through the process of thinking about that person. And probably the majority of us have somebody or had somebody like that in our life, right? And as you started to think about them, as I started to massage that idea, there were some emotions that arose up in your heart and your mind that were negative and made you feel bad, right? This is what we do every single time that we go into some social platform and participate or allow toxic information into our minds. And quite honestly, it's time that we stop. It's time that we start rebuilding the walls that have been torn down. And maybe some of us don't even have any walls because we've experienced such a traumatic life, such, strong criticism from family members or people around us, that we've been completely enabled to believe in the things that we can do because of the negative information. This is not a witch hunt to all the different social platforms that are available out there. These are simply platforms to connect and share ideas, and we can choose to either participate in the negative stuff or listen to the negative stuff, or we can choose to use these platforms for our benefit. It's time we stop weeding everybody else's gardens, whether they're family members or friends, and we start weeding our own gardens and eliminate the flow of lies, division, and toxicity into our minds. Stop the flow of poison into your homes. It's time you put on your ghillie suit, load a 50 cal into the rifle, and shoot toxicity straight in the forehead. It's time that we stop being victims of our own mental junk food that we intake on a moment-by-moment basis throughout the day. Decide today to take ground. Stop waiting to be rescued because chances of it happening is slim to none. You are your own hostage rescue team. Every day, position your mind to start taking ground. When I was working on this audio, I had a picture kind of pop into my mind regarding physics. Newton's third law of physics says for every reaction, there's an equal reaction. And then after that, there's no more energy to be spent, so the reaction stops. And I had this picture of two words, motivational physics. And it was kind of coming across my mental TV screen, like you'd see a stock quote on CNBC at the bottom. And the more that I thought about it and meditated on it, what I thought of was motivational physics is the complete opposite of the physics that keep our world together. Equal reaction, once the reaction's done, there's no more energy to be spent. Well, with motivational physics, it's completely different. One word, one kind word, one kind act can have an exponential impact on someone's life. And let's go back to when you were a kid, when somebody said something to you, whether it was really good or bad, and how it impacted you for a very long time. I still remember encouraging words that my mother said to me or that my father said to me when I was a kid that still come back to me every so often to remind me of what they said. And that's the exponential effect or impact that you have with motivational physics. So whether it's good or bad, you can literally impact somebody for the rest of their life. So knowing that you can impact others for a lifetime, think about the words that you're allowing into your mind on a moment-by-moment basis. Okay, now remember, you guys are your own hostage rescue team. Pull out the 50 cal, put on the ghillie suit, and shoot toxicity straight in the forehead.